I'm mainly focusing, I'm not gonna go talk from the, top, upper level or something. I'm just gonna talk little bit in the basics. And I'm just gonna teach like how man in the middle attacks are done. So, and what do we do in order to mitigate that? These days, in most of the places, these man in the middle attacks are mitigated. But however, I would just like to, give you an insight on how the man in the middle attack works and how it can be done. So what all the vulnerabilities or what all the loopholes the hackers use to launch the man in the middle attacks. And this session I'm trying to make it as interactive as possible. So whenever you feel that you have any doubt or you have any questions, please feel free to stop me at that minute itself and you can ask any questions you have. I'll be glad to answer you. So yeah, uh, proceeding with the slides. So I would like to introduce about myself. So I currently work at Barracuda Networks. Arinesh gave a very good introduction, and I hope you all have heard about the event called as Hackers Asylum, which is used to happen in Invente, right? This is an Invente every year. So I was one who started to organize that event. From me, the event was taken by one senior called as Prakash, and then from Prakash, it is now taken by
Yeah,
the
it is
Daksh.
Om Prakash.
Yeah, it was taken by Om Prakash, and then from Om Prakash it was taken by Pradeep and Dakshinamurti. Yeah, so uh, we are uh, we are
He is the
also
next speaker.
yeah, I saw that, and yeah, exactly. So we are also hosting a community as well. So Hackers Asylum is not only an event which is hosted in Invente, but it is also a community. So yeah, if you can go to this website and you can register to be a part of the community. So yeah, moving forward. So what is basically man in the middle attack? That that specific name itself that suggests that some guy who is in the middle, who is trying to eavesdrop or who's trying to sniff the traffic which is going out to the internet, or the victim's traffic or anybody's traffic in the network which is going out to the internet. So the hacker positions himself in such a way that he's middle between the gateway and the victim. So one question you will all have: why he is between the gateway? Anyone?
because
Why he
that's
is between the gateway?
uh, because that's when like the data is not that encrypted in this way, in a way sense, like you can easily intercept it.
Uh, no. Okay. I'll tell you one basic thing. Let me share out the. I think I shared only one screen. Let me share my screen again. I hope you can see my entire screen now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me take this IP. 192.168.1.3 is my IP. Okay. Now my gateway is 192.168.1.1. Why the hacker needs to put himself between me and the gateway? Why the reason is because any of my traffic which is going beyond the network should go through the gateway. For example, if my destination IP is 192.168.1.5 or 1.6 or 1.7, it is a part of my network. So it can directly go to that specific destination. But when you need to go to Google or 8.8.8.8 or any traffic which doesn't belong to the network, then it needs to go through the gateway. If so, the hacker will sniff between me and the gateway so that any traffic going to the gateway can be sniffed by him, regardless of encryption or regardless of whatever protocol it is. If he is putting himself between the victim and the gateway, then there are more chances that he can sniff almost all the traffic. So this is what is told. And why what is the purpose of man in the middle attack is to steal the data, to sniff the information, try to get some passwords, or uh, that may be a part of social engineering as well, to to know what are his interests or something like that. So man in the middle attack is basically like, you just put a hacker just put himself behind, in front of the victim and the gateway, and simple, all the traffic is sniffed. Okay, Then I'll tell you the types of man in the middle attacks. So first thing, ARP spoofing, and second thing is DNS spoofing. The DNS spoofing, I would say it is not an effective method because entire traffic is sniffed. So if you want to, uh, only forward specific traffic to your server, then at that time DNS spoofing may be useful. But however, I will go very detailed in these topics coming forward. And HTTPS stripping. Arunesh, you said, right, you want to take the encrypted data out. You want to see the encrypted data. So any encrypted data which goes, most of the encrypted data will have HTTPS. Web traffic is an encrypted data. So you want to strip the HTTPS from that. You want to make it HTTP. You want to make it unencrypted. So that process is called as HTTPS stripping. And rogue access point. So rogue access point means what will happen? You get an IP address from the gateway, right? So when you're in a network, when you're in a college network or any small network or anywhere, you get an IP address from the gateway. So what I'll do, I'll put an access point, just assuming I'm also the gateway, and I'll modify my MAC address in such a way that packets come to me first. That process is called as rogue access point. But rogue access point, these days it is not done. The reason is because all the routers or all the access points have dynamic ARP inspection enabled. I'll tell you what the dynamic ARP inspection as well. So I guess I just told you the basics. So any other questions you have in this one? I assume no.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, you can go ahead, sir.
Sure. Okay, so basics first. So I'll tell you how ARP works. So first, whenever I'm going to ping an IP or whenever I'm going to try to access some network, I'm just going to ask the source IP, destination IP, and source MAC, destination MAC. So the MAC address is where ARP comes out. So generally ARP works in which layer of the OSI model? Anybody? Sorry, Joshua, I guess. There was a lag in your voice. Please come again.
Is it data link layer, sir?
Yeah, it is data link layer as well as network layer, both network layer and data link layer. You cannot just classify whether it is a network layer or data link layer because ARP involves IP as well. If it is involving IP, then it definitely needs to be a part of network layer. It involves MAC as well. If it is involving MAC, it definitely need to be a part of data link layer. So it will be between the data link layer and network layer. Yeah, first thing, I'm just giving IP config. I get an I want to ping an IP. I just get a MAC of it. So using the MAC, I just communicate. I just forward the packet to my default switch. I mean my switch which is in the network. The switch will forward the traffic with its MAC address table. The switch will have a MAC address table. Suppose this is a router or this is a switch. The switch will contain MAC address table containing the MAC address of all the 4 PCs. So whenever I do a ping to 10.10.10.2, I will have the MAC address here. How I will have the MAC address is because I will forward my packets first to the switch. Then my switch will know the MAC address of 10.10.10.2. It will give me the MAC address, and using that I'll communicate to host B. And this MAC address is saved in my cache, which is called as ARP cache. So when you do this, you get the list of MAC addresses, right? List of physical addresses for the IP address. This is called as ARP cache. So whenever I'm pinging a new PC and you do not know the MAC address, it will go to the default gateway. The default gateway will give the MAC address of the destination IP, and I'll have it stored in my ARP table, ARP cache. So this is the basic process of ARP. Now you will all have a doubt like, okay, you told how ARP works, but why how ARP spoofing is done? Why ARP is used? Why not other protocols? Why ARP is used? Can anybody tell something? Why ARP spoofing is used in this scenario?
I think so. I didn't quite get the question. Can you repeat, sir?
So when I said here, the first step, what I said is ARP spoofing, and I explained about ARP here. And there are a lot of internet protocols. You can spoof using that, but why are we spoofing using ARP?
Because you can mimic any MAC address or IP address you want.
Yeah, in a way it is correct, but the reason why we are using ARP spoofing is to have the PC stored in its MAC address table or in its ARP cache. There is nothing as such validation is done. For example, you are in 10.1.1.1. I am in 10.1.1.2, and the gateway is 10.1.4. I can come to you and say the gateway of the MAC address of the gateway is 00112233, something like that, and you will never validate it. Your PC will never validate it whether it is correct or not. It will simply just store it in its ARP cache. So if it does like that, then I can easily sniff the packets. That is why this ARP protocol has been taken advantage in this scenario. For example, so generally, as we said, ARP, what ARP does, ARP finds the MAC address for an IP address. So this is where the interesting part is. There is a process called as gracious ARP. So what happens? I'm just turning on my PC. So I have my router. I'm getting an IP address from the router. Okay, I'm getting an IP address called as 10.1.1.2. An IP address is given to me. Now what I will do, I will send one gracious ARP packet saying that 10. Say my MAC address is like this. So just an example. Say this is my IP and this is my MAC. So once I get the IP address, a newly bought IP address, I can do an gracious ARP saying that, hey, I'm 10.1.1.2 and this is my MAC address. I can send it as a broadcast. What is meant by broadcast?
Send to all the connected nodes, like everyone goes selected.
Send to the entire network which is connected to the switch, which is called as broadcast. So how I will do, I will send a packet like this. My source IP will be 10.1.1.2. My source MAC will be 001122334455. My destination IP will be again 10.1.1.2. My destination MAC will be FF. FF is nothing but broadcast. So what I'll do, I'll send this packet to FFFF, which means it will go and say it is broadcast. This 10.1.1.2 belongs to 001122334455. So what will happen? Immediately all the PCs will take it and store it in its ARP cache, saying that 10.1.1.2 is equal to the MAC address. This process is called as gracious ARP. So whenever a PC is newly introduced into the network, the PC sends gracious ARP to know or to notify everyone that it is in the network. So hackers take advantage of this gracious ARP, and using this only the ARP spoof is done. As I said, ARP spoofing is possible. The reason is because client will trust response just like that. See, the client has not sent the request. What is your MAC address? 10.1.1.2. You newly came. What is your MAC address? Client doesn't ask, but client voluntarily sends the packet, the gracious ARP packet, to establish himself in the network. It doesn't, the one who accepts also, it doesn't verify. This process has been taken advantage. So what are the tools used to do ARP spoofing? So I hope you are all clear about the ARP basics, right? Does anybody have any questions?
So the gracious ARP is sent by the attacker or by the client to the attacker?
In ARP spoofing, it is sent by the attacker. But whenever a newly client comes up, it is sent by the newly introduced client.
Okay, so makes sense.
So the tools which is we are going to use today is RSpoof. We'll do an ARP cache poisoning. There is a tool called as Ettercap. These are all in Kali Linux. This Ettercap, it is a tool used to do RSpoof, but I'm a Linux guy, so Ettercap is kind of GUI, so I generally used to use RSpoof. And Mitom proxy, this is what is going to help us to sniff the HTTPS traffic and see the passwords behind it. DNS spoof. So DNS spoof is used to redirect the DNS traffic. For example, say I'm asking a query, where is google.com? So when I am doing an ARP spoof, the packet will come to me. I'm an attacker. Client is asking, where is google.com? Packet comes to me. So what I will do, google.com is at this website. I will have one malicious website loaded and I'll give that IP to there. That will resemble like google.com. And the user can hit the password. I can decrypt the data. You can use DNS spoof to do that. And finally, Bettercap. All these top 4 features are included in the Bettercap. But Bettercap is like, it is kind of a framework. It is a framework which is especially designed to do this. It will contain, all the you will just log into the Bettercap. You will say, do an ARP spoof. You will simply like in computer graphics, you use OpenGL framework, right? In that, what do? You just import the OpenGL library and say OpenGL draw a line, circle, something gets drawn, right? So kind of framework, right? So Bettercap is a framework like that. So these are all the tools that can be used here in this to make this ARP spoof successfully happen. First step, reconnaissance. So first we need to know who's the target or who is the attacker. So I have my lab. So I have this Windows victim. This guy is acting as victim here. If you see 10.0.2.5, he's acting as the victim. And I'm also in the same network. I'm having the Kali Linux. I hope everybody can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. One small thing. Please do not call me sir. Call me Bala. No problem.
Okay, Bala.
Yeah. So I have my Kali Linux. The IP is 10.0.2.4. Both of them have the same gateway 10.0.2.1. Now we're gonna find the target. See, we have this machine here. That's okay, no problem. I'm just going to tell you the step as if we do not know the Windows machine. So we need to find what are the active IPs in this specific network. See, what do you see? The IP address is 10.0.2.4. What is the netmask? 255.255.255 0. So can someone please tell me the network ID for this one? I see a silence. Can someone please tell me?
Sir,
It's okay. Let it be wrong. That's not a problem. Let it be wrong.
INET network, the entire the IP, sir.
No. Need not tell me the entire network. What is the network ID? Okay, simple.
First 2 bits, the first 4 bits, yeah. First like 2 bytes.
Simple. I'll
Yes,
make it up
first 2
simple for
bytes.
you guys.
3 bytes.
So this is IP for us. This is the subnet mask for us. So each dot is an octet. 8, 16, 24. So we have 3 octets fully. So which is /24 subnet. If it is /24 subnet, then first 3 octets are constant. This will be respect to change. For example, if I write like this, then this will contain, this is called as network ID. This is called as a network 10.0.2.0/24. This is a network and the IPs in the network. What will be the IPs in the network? 10.0.2.0 to 10.0.2.255, 0 to 256. So totally 256, total 256. I mean, I'm sorry with the numbers, is 0 to 255, totally 256. So this is a part of this network, and this is the network ID. Does anybody has confusions? Do you want me to come again?
No, sir, we understood this time, sir.
Sure. Okay. So in this scenario, this will be our network ID. So we have a tool called as NetDiscover. So what NetDiscover will do is, when you provide a specific range, NetDiscover will get the MAC address and the IP address of the specific, all the specific PCs in the network. I'll tell you how it is done. So first I'll give it this way. So the NetDiscover is starting. I'll tell you how NetDiscover works. So what it will do, first it will go to one IP. Say for example, 10.0.2.1. So it will go to this IP. It will saying that 10.0.2.1 is at this MAC address, for example. See, this is this PC's MAC address. Okay. So what this Kali Linux will do, the Kali Linux will go to each and every IP in the network, and it will go, for example, it will go to 10.0.2.1. It will go to 10.0.2.1 and say, the MAC address of 10.0.2.1 is this. At that time, what it will do, 10.0.2.1 will say, no, this is not the MAC address. This is my MAC address. It will respond with its MAC address. So the PC will get and store the response like this. Like this, it will do for the entire network. This whole network, what I mentioned, 10.0.2.1 to 10.0.2.255. 255 is called as broadcast. So it will do till 254. So in this way, it does, which are the PCs which are active in the network, that will respond saying that, no, that's not your MAC address. Sorry, that's not my MAC address. This is my MAC address. So that MAC address will get stored here. This is how the NetDiscover is done. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So this
So
way I
now-
can check for any number of like network ID. It can be 23, 22 also. I can check it, right? It will check all the two, but if it's 23, it will check for like 1, 2, 5 and 2
Yeah.
hosts. So it will go like that.
Yeah, it will check. But you should think one thing, that ARP request, which is initiating from this Kali PC, Kali Linux, it should go and reach that 23 network. If it does reach, it will get the MAC address back. It will store all the MAC address here, but make sure it needs to reach there. If it is reaching there, then only that client will respond saying that, no, this is my MAC address, like that. So once the MAC address comes back, it will get stored here.
So sir, in this way, can I get any MAC address? Like I can suppose I know like the general starting address is going to be 192.168. So I can just put 192.168.00 and then put a
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you can do that.
I can get every MAC address that's there around me, or like which I can find, or is it possible?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, so cool, sir.
Only one condition, the ARP request which you are sending, it needs to go and hit the PC. If it hits the PC is definitely going to respond.
Makes sense. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So we have this. We have this gateway, and these two saying are unknown vendor. These two PCs are saying as PCS System Technique GmbH. So our next step is going to be finding the operating system. What operating system this PC is doing. For that, we have nmap command to find the operating system. So this, see, it is saying as VirtualBox, means there is no such no any operating system deployed. It is just an IP address VirtualBox is using up. I'm having a VirtualBox. I set up a network. The first 3 IPs are used by the networks. Then I can make use of this. Also, we cannot trust the Nmap scans all time. So it is better to do some other check and then, get the values correctly, because sometimes Nmap throws a false positive error. Nmap will say the predicted result. See, it simply said VirtualBox. It did not get up. It is filtered. But this sometimes works. When you do nmap-0, this sometimes works. Maybe I can try doing a verbose. So generally how it used to happen is, whenever I do an nmap scan, it will say there is one port which is running a Windows specific service. Then using that port and that service, I will detect that that is a Windows PC. Something like that I used to do. But see, too many fingerprints. Match this host to give specific OS details. We can trust Nmap all the time, but generally, sometimes what happens is it will detect saying that I found this specific, this kind of one specific port which is running a Windows service. Okay, it's running in Windows service. Okay, it is in Windows PC. You can find it in that way. But this used to gives the details sometimes, but this doesn't give us most of the time. Maybe you can run an Nmap active scan or stealth scan to get the results. So you can get all the open ports and see if there is any, where is 443 running. If it is running on Apache, if it is Apache, then it is Linux. If it is running on IIS managed server, then it's Windows. You can find pretty much using like that. So this is a part of reconnaissance, finding the details, whom we are going to attack or whom we are going to keep ourselves as a target. Any questions?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we find a person's exact location by sending a message to them?
Finding a person's exact location.
For example, let's take Instagram. While we
Okay.
send a message, it was split up into the packets, and it was transferring to them now. So it was going to them and finding their location, and it was transferring to them.
See, it's Instagram and WhatsApp, these guys are able to get the location because they get the permission in prior with you that they are going to use the location, they are going to use the camera, they are going to use the audio. So it is your mobile which is throwing up the location to them.
Yeah, we can track that and we can find the exact location, sir. But can we?
No, Instagram, what it does, it is encrypted between the Instagram server and the users. You said that you want to decrypt that?
Yeah. While we are sending a message, it was going from this server to this server, and it was going.
Yeah,
to
you can. That is what the man in the middle attack. Real life it works, but you need to know how the traffic is getting routed, right?
Yeah, I want to know.
You need to know how the traffic is getting routed. Either you need to be at one end of the server, or either you need to be one end of the victim's PC or somewhere. You need to know how the victim is routing the packets to internet. If you know it that way, and if you sniff the packet, then you can absolutely try to decrypt and get the data.
Yeah, I can able to see the servers which are getting near to them, but how we can find the exact location using IPs and that IMEI number something? Can we do that?
IMEI, I don't think so. IMEI numbers and all will get propagated in Instagram.
Okay.
So max to max, there are 4 numbers. The IP address, the public IP, it will get propagated. So you can take that public IP and then you can search it in IP lookup. There are various IP lookups which will state from which country it belongs to.
It was just showing the location of this server is present here, but we can't say. for example, their ID may be present in some other server, like in a Bangalore or something.
Hmm.
While
No,
the-
no. See, it is completely different. What will happen is, if you are connected to your Wi-Fi and if you are passing the data, you're using Instagram on that Wi-Fi network. So that Wi-Fi network is completely responsible to forward the packets from your mobile to the Instagram server. So if you're using Instagram from that network, you will see only that public IP. You will not see where your user ID is hosted. The place where it travels may be the place you are saying that where the user ID may be hosted, but the one you're using Instagram, from there only it will get the traffic from there only it will get initiated.
yes, sir.
All right, yeah.
If it possible, can you do that like up to some extent?
No, actually I'm not near Instagram server, first thing, and second thing is it is a long process. It is not simply done as such. See, you need to know for which guest you are going to target, and second thing, if you're going to target from the Instagram side, you need to make sure that your package doesn't get blocked. Instagram has a strong algorithms. Even though you sniff the traffic, you decrypt the traffic, inside the traffic they also get again encrypted. For example, you are hitting your username and password, you are sending the data from HTTPS web browser. It goes from web browser to the Instagram server. For example, I am sniffing the traffic. I can decrypt and see it is an Instagram traffic, but I cannot go and see what password the users are gave. The reason is because whenever you hit a password, Instagram encrypts that password using your password and some random values. Not really sure how they do that, but the one who designs website generally, they do it in that way.
Okay, sir. My question is, our IP is going from our location to their location now. So we can track our IP now. It was traveling from this server to that server, and finally it was reaching this server, we can say. So from and up to that server, I can find like by tracking itself by IP lookup. But the location, it was not showing.
No,
there-
if you go to the IP lookup, there are numerous number of IP lookup websites are there. If you simply go there, it will show the geolocation. If you simply search find geolocation for an IP, it is going to show that. See, if you see a traffic is coming from specific website or specific IP address to Instagram, just give that IP address. You will see the location.
Okay, sir.
If you're able to decrypt the traffic, if you're able to see the username, and if you see the IP address, you can come to know that username is from Chennai or Bangalore or something like that. But again, I told you this. I told you earlier, it is a little bit complicated process. You need to know. You need to be sure where you are going to place yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I hope this reconnaissance step makes sense. So you're finding the attacker. So this and Ashwin, this is just a example which I'm showing within the network, but this is what is done globally. Actually, whenever the ARPspoof is done in a real life, hacker places himself between the server and the user. So sometimes the server is behind the firewall. At that time, the hacker cannot sniff the packets. The firewall will do an ARP inspection and dynamic ARP inspection, and it will block the traffic. But when the server is isolated, or if that server is alone hosted in internet, their ARPspoof is possible. So hackers will target that type of servers, and then they will try to do ARPspoof.
Okay, I'm getting.
Yeah.
Main doubts, sir.
Sorry, yeah, Joshua.
For this, it needs to connect to the network now, sir. Before we even figure out what neighbors.
For this, you need to be a part of the network.
So we need to like crack the router and get
No.
there first.
This is again. This is just an example. This is just an example saying that I'm doing within this network. But in real life, in practical scenarios, how man-in-the-middle attack is done is hacker will place himself between the server and the end user.
The link part is the question, sir. That was another
Sorry,
hacking
Joshua,
to place.
I have some trouble in hearing you. Please come again.
To place him in the middle, sir, between the server and the client or wherever he wants to sniff. For placing himself there itself requires some amount of hacking, no, sir.
Yeah, exactly. That step is called as reconnaissance. You need to find the target. See, I just simply told you by doing a net discover, doing it in a local network. But
Yeah.
if you say I'm a hacker who is going to do it in a real life scenario, what I will do is I'll first say I have to sniff the Instagram traffic.
Okay.
Something like that. I'll have this IP first. I'll have this IP and I'll come to know where the server is hosted, and I'll come to know who is the vendor, whether it's GoDaddy or somebody they used to host. I'll try to launch an Nmap and see if they have done something, and I'll find the open ports. I'll try to exploit. It is a big step. The reconnaissance itself is a big step. In our scenario, it is very
Yes.
small because I'm already in the part of the network. I'm doing it within the network.
Got it, sir.
Yeah. And second thing is launching the MITM attack. So this MITM attack is pretty much straightforward. You're simply going to go to the victim and say, I'm the gateway. And you will go to gateway and say, I'm the victim. Simple. In this scenario, 10.0.2.5. And gateway is 10.0.2.1, right? So I will go to the 10.0.2.5 and say, I am 10.0.2.1. So E0 is my interface. The target is first 2.5. To what you're going to say to 10.0.2.5, I'm going to say that I am gateway. This is a gracious ARP packet. ARP reply 10.2.0.1 is at 8027. I'm going to say this way. This is a gracious ARP packet. And now that I went to victim and said I'm the gateway, I'm going to go to gateway and say I'm the victim. So, right, I have my package which is getting forwarded now.
So basically you said to the victim that you're the
gateway
by changing your IP to 10.2.1, like 2.5.
I'm not changing my IP. I'm changing the MAC
to that value of the gateway. And then you're telling gateway that you're the victim so that you can.
Exactly.
Okay,
so gateway will forward the victim's traffic to me. Victim will forward the gateway's traffic to me.
Okay, makes sense. But will the traffic, like then also the data will be transmitting, right, from you through you though, or it won't be transmitting also?
Only through me.
Okay, it won't be like it's transmitting and you're just like how you put a wire between electrical wires. It's not
exactly.
Like that.
You're directly connecting wire from victim to gateway. I'm just taking that victim's wire from gateway. I'm connecting to me, and from me, I'm taking another wire and I'm connecting to gateway.
Ah, makes sense.
See, if you see ARP table here, the gateway is still 525400123500. But if you go and see the ARP table of here of the Windows PC, 080027. See, my MAC address is showing for him as gateway.
Yes, sir.
Now the ARP spoof is done. Now, one thing we need to enable here in Kali Linux, that I'm going to enable IP forwarding. Means I am getting IP address, traffic from another IP address. I want to enable forwarding of that traffic. So I'm just going to systemctl. 1 second. Oops, my bad, guys. I forgot to give a dot. Yeah. Now that I have the ARP spoof which is ran successfully. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to enable the midterm proxy. So before that, important thing, I'll explain first what is midterm proxy. So what is proxy generally? So we do proxy, right, while giving attendance in the class. I hope you remember. I mean, I used to do it a lot during my college days. I hope you guys remember.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now
Yeah.
it is online also. So
Yeah. So what is proxy then? Can someone please tell me?
I guess it's like imitating a PC that it's another PC.
No. We
Kind
need
of
not.
like in place of.
Okay.
You
Somebody
say
said
I'm in
something.
I'm in place of I don't know, Joshua. I'm speaking on behalf of Joshua.
Yeah, that is a way
Or like
correct, but
imitating, something like that.
can you tell this way? I'm giving attendance on behalf of Joshua, or I'm giving attendance on behalf of Aranesh or something like that.
Like pretending to be somebody else.
Pretending to be somebody else. So what happens is, if this Windows is going, Windows knows that if it needs to go to 8.8.8.8, it needs to go to gateway. Simple. Now, gateway is like a proxy. Means it is assuming it is the way to go to internet. It is the internet, something like that. See, if you see gateway in this scenario, if I ping 8.8.8.8, here the Windows PC knows if I need to go to internet, I need to go to gateway. But proxy is something like, if I need to go to internet, yeah, you will go to internet. But gateway, what it will do, it will give it to the proxy server. Packet will come to me. I will raise a request on behalf of this guy to the internet. So suppose I'm giving 8.8.8.8, traffic comes to me. What I'll do, okay, you reached internet, man, you did fine. Now this guy will take all of your data and it will send to the internet. Then what will happen? The gateway will think it is coming from this public IP or somewhere, and it will respond back to the traffic. And this guy, once it got the response, he will take only that specific response which is required by this guy, and he'll forward it to this guy. This is called as forward proxy. Means I'm going to Google or I'm going to Gmail, I'm giving my credentials, it reaches my proxy server takes only the credentials, it rewrites the request according to his requirement, it sends to the Gmail, and Gmail sees the request, it authenticates, it responds back to the traffic, then it again receives the traffic, then it gets the response data for that specific request which is sent by the client, then it gives back to the client. This is literally the job of a proxy server in higher level. And midterm proxy is nothing but one such kind of proxy server. And midterm proxy listens on port 8080. Generally, like if you want, you can change, but midterm proxy listens on port 8080. So what is our aim now is to decrypt the HTTPS traffic. And do you think, can I do this with the proxy?
Read the question, sir.
So according to our man in the middle attack, our primary aim is to decrypt the traffic, HTTPS traffic, which is going out to the internet. And can I do that with proxy? I explained to you about proxy, right? What it does. So can I do that with proxy?
Yeah, we can see the data. What is
Exactly. So proxy rewrites the data. So in that rewriting part, proxy will definitely have all the users' data. So we will get access to the users' data.
Proxy is just like connecting to a Wi-Fi. V5 connected to the Wi-Fi means the Wi-Fi will router will send the data and receive the data and give to us. Just like that, right?
Exactly. But the router is acting as a gateway, not as proxy. If it is a gateway, it will not see whether what data it is having. It will simply say, okay, internet, throw it here. But proxy is not like that. Proxy will take my data. Proxy will work on behalf of me. And proxy has the authority to decide which data it can transfer to the server and which data it cannot. Simple. In our SSN Wi-Fi, you are using proxy, right?
Proxy will validate the contents and routes, and will discard some things.
Exactly. In that same proxy server can take your request to the Gmail. It will take back your credentials, but that same proxy cannot make you to log into Netflix, right?
Can you explain that VPN bypassing that? How VPN bypassing?
Yeah. So what happens is whenever you are using a VPN, you will tell you are from a random network. You are not a part of this network. You are from a random network. See, generally, proxy service is enabled. Okay. Generally in firewall, that whenever a proxy service is enabled, they will have a rule saying that which and all Wi-Fi clients are connected to this firewall, they should have the proxy service used. So whenever you use that VPN and whenever you get connected, what it will think as a VPN user. And the VPN, if you're a VPN user, you will not be a part of the client network. You will be in a different network. If you're in a different network, then proxy service will not be given to you. So if there is no proxy service that is given to you, you can browse the internet without the limits. Okay. I'll make even more simple. So I have my Barracuda CloudGen firewall. Okay. So we need not complicate. This is how a next gen firewall looks like generally. So this client to site VPN, whenever I have a client to site VPN, whenever I create a client to site VPN, I'll have my different networks for client to site VPN. One second. Anyways, so I have my firewall generally. So whenever it is connected to, okay, let me switch on the other firewall for you guys. Still coming up. This came up. Okay. Both are still coming up. 1 second. Sorry guys, I think my firewall is not, it is taking time to come up. I just gave around 1 GB RAM on it. Let's just wait till it comes up. Yeah, so I was talking about the VPN, right? So whenever I enable that VPN service, that VPN has different privileges. That VPN service need not be a part of the proxy. So using that only, we are trying to connect to VPN and then we are just able to browse the traffic unlimited. But at many places, when you try to browse internet through VPN, the internet will be very slow. The reason is because I have seen as a network admins how they do is, for VPN users, if they want to browse internet through firewall, then it is they just provide less bandwidth.
Sir, my question is,
Okay.
while we are connecting to VPN, we are pretended to be in some other network. Then why the proxy should allow the request to why the
Proxy is not destined to scan the traffic.
Okay.
See, if you are from one of the clients in that Wi-Fi network, then proxy is destined to scan your traffic. But if you are a part of VPN, then proxy is not destined to scan your traffic. Whenever you are connected to SSN Wi-Fi, okay, what will be your IP? Your IP will be something like 10.100.10.2, something like that. IP will be there. You're a part of that SSN Wi-Fi network. So proxy service is destined for SSN Wi-Fi network. It is supposed to scan your traffic, not the VPN's traffic, because VPN belongs to different network.
Can it restrict or can it discard the request from the VPN?
Yeah, if you have the proxy service enabled, you can configure the proxy service in such a way that any packet which is going out through the firewall, it needs to scan the network. You can configure it in that way.
Okay.
But the reason why it is used to work is we are pretending ourselves some VPN networks. That's it.
Okay. Thanks.
That is one thing. And another thing what they will do, this is another interesting thing. Okay, whenever you are connected to VPN, I'll have this explained to you. Sorry for the bad handwriting, guys. Seriously, I'm just dragging my mouse. So this is the college Wi-Fi. Okay, this is your, suppose this is your PC. This is your Wi-Fi, and this is the internet. Okay, suppose you are using VPN in your PC. What it will do, it will encrypt all your packets. Suppose you are browsing Netflix. Okay, what it will do, if you install VPN, VPN will first encrypt your packets from we are using Siphon, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what it will do, from PC to Siphon VPN server, it will establish a client to site connection. So what will happen, you will have a connection like this, from PC to Wi-Fi adapter, Wi-Fi to Siphon VPN server. You will have your connection established in Siphon VPN server. So whenever you are browsing internet from your PC, you're not browsing from your PC, you are browsing from Siphon VPN server to internet. So at that time, all your credentials will work. Understood? Do you want me to explain again?
While getting outside, it was from other networks, so this Wi-Fi could tell this is from other network. I will not.
No, it will not do that. The reason is because Wi-Fi will assume you're just trying to connect to a public IP. That's all. Wi-Fi, see, Wi-Fi basically is allowed for anything. Okay. After that, okay, things which is blocking us to browse Netflix is what is the proxy. And what proxy does? Proxy scans all the traffic which is hit from the Wi-Fi. Okay. So when you're hitting Netflix, Wi-Fi sees, Wi-Fi sends it to proxy. Okay, it is Netflix, it is not allowed. But whenever you are trying to connect to Siphon VPN server, Wi-Fi will have a public IP. Okay, this guy is sending some traffic to public IP. Yeah, what kind of traffic is this? That's okay, anything. So what it will do, it will establish a connection from your PC to the Siphon VPN server using client to site VPN. When it is connected to client to site VPN, now you will be a part of Siphon VPN server. You are not a part of this SSN Wi-Fi network now. You used SSN's internet to establish a client to site VPN connection to Siphon VPN server.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I got it.
This is why it is allowed. Even if you see in our firewall,
Sir,
Yeah.
in that case, the proxy can be smartly modified so that it doesn't allow any connections to any.
But what can you do
VPN.
using this proxy? The proxy takes care of only HTTPS traffic, boss. But for VPN, it uses different port, right?
Amazing. Okay, sir.
VPN is used 4500, 691, 692, or Siphon is there. Siphon will use some random port called as 1024, 1046. Proxy does not know. Proxy is not intelligent enough, but firewall is intelligent enough. You can write a rule in such a way that if it has any kind of VPN traffic, if it is able to detect that VPN traffic in the signatures, then it can block. You can write a rule such that in firewall. 1 second, guys. I'll just show you a quick demo in my firewall. So I've added one client network here. Okay. Oh God. Oh yeah, I'm able to send changes. So I'm including my client network here. I'm writing here like this. So now my firewall has a public IP. Assume my firewall has a public IP called as 100.100.100.100. I am the Siphon VPN server. Now you assume in this way. Okay. Now what you will do, whenever you install a Siphon client in your Android mobile, it will establish a connection with my firewall. My firewall will accept the connection from your public IP. Your public IP means from SSN's IP, and it will give you an IP address in this network. 10.1.1.3. Yeah, your IP is 10.1.1.3. Now you are a part of firewall. You are browsing internet from my firewall. You are not browsing internet from the SSN's college, SSN's Wi-Fi. So from my internet, I have no restrictions. I can allow everything. Whenever you browse Siphon and whenever you go to YouTube and see, either you will see any, you will see the recommendations of that, like some that UK or that Austria. You will see videos of belonging to that country whenever you connect to YouTube using the Siphon VPN. The reason is because you belong to a firewall which is in the Australia. Oh, sorry, I mean Austria.
Okay.
Balana konjam faster wrap up பண்ணலாமா
முடிச்சிரேன். Yeah, நான் முடிச்சிரேன். I did the MITM attack also, and I have also forwarded the IP. So this is how the gracious ARP traffic looks like. I told you, right? Here we saw. So we did this. Now we are going to redirect the traffic from internet. What are the ports internet uses? Port 80 and 443 for browsing the internet from Google Chrome, HTTPS. So what we are going to say, redirect all the port 80 and port 443 traffics to the port 8080. That's what we are going to say now. One second. One second. It's IP tables. It's my mistake. So I wrote a command now. So any packet from 80 to 443, it's going to come to the MITM proxy. Now I'm going to start MITM proxy. The more transparent mode means it will capture all the real-time traffic and it will show here itself. It will not store in the logs instead. So I'm going to Windows 10 PC now. So I'll use private window. Sometimes it works with private window. So I'm just giving 1, 2, 3, 4 password, trying to log into Facebook. See, the Mitem proxy has detected all the packets. So if we see in post records, we can have some credentials that can be seen. 1 second. Okay, let me run the Mitem proxy again for you and then. See here, username, login, password. I'm able to sniff the password here. You able to see that?
Yes, sir.
So you can sniff the passwords in this way. I used to sniff the passwords of Facebook earlier, but sometimes what happens is whenever I hit a username and password, Facebook combines that and it uses some random value and then it creates a hash and then it is encrypting that entire data and then it is sending back. So whenever it is going back to the Facebook server, the only Facebook server knows how to decrypt that. We don't know how to decrypt that. We just know how to decrypt these data, but it is encrypted inside encrypted. First thing, this is a Facebook URL. That URL is encrypted. Inside the passwords are there. That passwords are again inside, they are encrypted. That's why we are not able to see the data. They have recently changed these things, but earlier Facebook used to work for us.
Does this mean Outlook is not that secure?
Outlook is not that secure. And you know, these banking websites are doing one clever thing. Okay, I'll show you. Whenever you hit this, you will see the magic. So general username. So when I'm hitting the password, when I'm giving this captcha, okay, you know, you see the password size will, the size of the text will modify. See?
Yes, it modifies, yes.
It modified, right? What happens is it uses that time when you hit the password, it is including some range of values and it is kind of encrypting the values, that entire password. Oh no, this is SBA, this is Bing. If we see the post request, we can come to know. See, SHA password. Username we got a SHA password.
So they will be encrypted with the timestamp and some random value, and we don't know the random value.
It completely depends on somebody who writes the code. But
so
how
like, can I run a brute force to find what random value it can be?
Yeah, you can do it, but it will definitely take too long time. First, you need to find what is the hash they are using.
Oh,
What
yeah,
is
that
the
makes sense,
encryption
yeah.
method, or what is the hash method they try to encrypt? You need to first know that, then you need to decrypt this. But again, these things and all, a hacker will come to know. I'm just running in front of you, but a hacker will already have this multiple things analyzed for the specific website, and then only he will do these things, and then only he'll come to know the passwords. But earlier, when I was doing it in 2019, at that times, it simply used to show me the password, just like it showed for Outlook, right? For us, it used to show it in the same way for us. And didn't you guys get one thing? How was this possible? How was this packets getting transferred?
Because I was connected to the same network.
No. See, it
Yeah,
is connected to the same network. Perfectly fine. Everything is fine, guys. How an HTTPS connection is has been established? Generally, what it used to happen, HTTPS is end-to-end encrypted, right?
Yes.
And I had a proxy which redirects the traffic. And if this would have detected that it is a proxy, then it should have said that it is insecure, right? Because proxy is supposed to read my data.
Yes,
Proxy is not sending the encrypted traffic. Proxy is reading my data, but PC did not come to know how.
Firewall, I guess.
No.
It assumes that also just like in server. So it was
Ashwin, you are so close to the point, but you can be even more specific. How did the PC come to know that it is secure? Okay.
Because it's the gateway IP address and a MAC address.
No, guys. No, guys.
Things.
Do you see this? Do you see this? What is the certificate it is showing up? Whenever I browse,
it shows some author certificate, I think so.
oh guys. See, whenever I'm browsing this KeyCDN, it is showing the KeyCDN certificate. Okay, but whenever I'm browsing Google here in my Windows 10 PC, oh, I think it got hung up. Yeah. It is showing as MITM proxy certificate. So what happens? MITM proxy has got a signed certificate, and that certificate is trusted by certificate authority. So it is using the MITM proxy certificate.
So basically, MITM proxy has like already it has like he has been set as the CA certificate authorizer.
No. He is not the certificate authority. He got a certificate from certificate authority.
And then he's using that to he's just using that and agree for every set that we go to.
Yeah, he's using that certificate to authenticate. இவன் வந்து கூகுளுக்கு தான் அனுப்புறான்றது இவனுக்கு தெரியும். ஆனா அவன் MITM proxy certificate தான் யூஸ் பண்ணி அனுப்புறான். அவனை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் அவன் தான் கூகுள்.
Oh, makes sense. Like it's saying that whatever site you're going, it's secure only because I am a CA, so I am saying that, yeah.
I am a CA certified. I'm not a CA.
I'm CA certified, so I can okay, let me put it down.
I am secure.
Like he's in the hierarchy hierarchy child of the certificate.
Child of the certificate, exactly. Not child, he'll be either child of that root certificate, correct? Yeah, the one who got the certificate from root. Yeah, correct. What you said is also correct. So this way you are trying to you are trying to take advantage of using the certificate, because if certificate doesn't match, you will simply see that no, it is not possible. It will say the connection is not secure. Do you remember?
Yes, sir. We have done
it will show like that, but it is not showing. The reason is because you have a trusted certificate. Hackers make use of this also. So there are a list of certificates which are revocated. So whenever you have a certificate that created a problem, or that certificate's private key is compromised, that certificate you should immediately tell it to certificate authority saying that, hey, you know, my private key is compromised, just take care, make sure that nobody misuses the certificate. So immediately what they will do, they will put it in the certificate revocation list. அதாவது அது வந்துதான், பட் ஆனா வந்துட்டு இப்போ வந்து உன்னால அதை யூஸ் பண்ண முடியாது. So they will put it in that list. And the firewall and the PC should be, PC is not intelligent able to find that, but firewall is an intelligent one to find that. So you need to configure these things in the firewall. You need to configure, or you need to delete that revocated certificate from
Bala,
PC. You need to,
The
yeah, ma'am.
other- Bala,
Yeah, ma'am.
yeah, try to finish it. The other speaker is waiting.
It's done, ma'am. It's done. It's done. I'll just complete. Yeah, this was the certificates which I was trying to talk about. Yeah,
Okay,
so
okay.
revoke the certificates and these things. So mitigations. So dynamic ARP inspection. So dynamic ARP inspection means whenever you're trying to run a random gracious ARP, firewall or somebody will come to know that no, this is not a valid ARP request and it will block. This is a dynamic ARP inspection. SSL inspection. Any traffic that goes to the firewall will decrypt like a proxy. Firewall will decrypt the SSL traffic and see if it is legitimate or not. Because I can encrypt my traffic and I can send a malicious packets right to the internet. So these things. If you use IPS, virus scanning, SSL inspection, it will mostly prevent any man-in-the-middle attacks and any virus attacks. So and VPN will secure the traffic. So you need not establish a connection to the website directly. You connect to VPN, then you connect to website. That will be a good one. This link will be useful for you. I'll have this shared it to you in the slide. So there is a KP called as a Python library called as KP, which is used to, you know, write a script to launch man-in-the-middle attacks. I wanted to explain about that. And then I had few resources for you guys. So there might be a few of you guys who wanted to start your career in hacking. You don't know what to do. So these are few courses which is very useful. So I just thought of sharing it to you. So I'll share all these slides to you guys so you can make use of it. And yeah, I wanted to know, do you have any other questions or do you have feedbacks? What do you say, whether it went interactive? Do you want this to even more improvised? Do you want another session or something? Yeah, I'm actually ready to come forward. Yeah, so it would be great if I know your thoughts. I'm sorry just that I took more time, but yeah, I guess I was able to provide you some good knowledge.
Sir, we have a feedback form that the students will be filling after the thing is over.
Okay.
So feedbacks can be put there.
Sure.
And we'll forward it to you, sir.
No problem, Joshua. So anybody has any other questions or something, please reach out to me. Aranesh knows me. You can contact Aranesh, and there is a senior called as Pradeep who knows me. You can contact with Pradeep, or ma'am Chamundeshwari ma'am is there. So any questions and regarding to anything, yeah, please feel free to reach me. I'll be glad to help you. And yeah, thank you guys, and thank you for this wonderful event. I appreciate all of them joining here, and have a wonderful day. And I really thank all of you guys to, you know, choose the cybersecurity. I mean, if you're choosing cybersecurity, then thank you and all the best for you guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you. It was very actually interactive and helpful for us.
No problem, Aranesh. It was pleasure talking to you guys as well. It's very glad to see you. I feel like I'm seeing me. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Aranesh, and thank you guys.
Stop.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So our next speaker and our last speaker for the day is Dakshin Murthy. He's a final year student from our department, CSE department. He says he's interested in cybersecurity as a hobby. He's done an internship at Ahuja Security as an SOC analyst. And right now he's working on a project which is malware detection for Android apps. And also he did say he will introduce himself beyond this. So let's just give the floor to him.
Yeah, hi guys. So actually Christina covered most of the introduction. So my name is Dakshin. I'm a final year student here at SSM. So I've been working with cybersecurity as a hobby, and I've been playing around with malware and malware detection for 1 or 2 years now. So yeah, so I just thought I'd give you guys a small demo of how malware works. So let me just give you guys a quick summary of what we're going to be doing today.
One second. Darshan, I'll let you share
Yeah,
your screen.
yeah. So I'll start sharing in a while. First, so